It's been only 2 weeks since I released my tier list video for PvP, and I usually don't update it until a couple of months have passed. But today we are making an exception and updating it after just 2 weeks. I've watched a lot of gameplay from other servers, ranging from low to very high resonance players, so I believe I'm well aware of how different classes are performing at various resonance levels and across different servers. It's hard to make everyone happy with a single tier list because things can vary depending on the player and account stats. But I think my list will give you a pretty decent overview of the classes in Diablo Immortal for PvP activities. If you want to hear a quick summary of the current state of PvP in Diablo Immortal, let me do that before we move on, and you can subscribe to the channel while I'm doing that. Well, this game's PvP activities are dominated by damage over time builds on certain classes, Tempest and Barbarian. That's it. Now, let's get into the list. If you take a look at my last list, you can see Barb and Tempest in S tier, with Demon Hunter following them in A tier. First of all, I'm not going to demote Tempest or Barbarian from S tier. Tempest recently got a pretty good essence that added more options to the class. Tempest already has a bunch of shields, harmful effect removal with Windwalk, and pretty high burst damage depending on the build being used. I'm not even talking about the control abilities and iframes since we already know about those. Anyways, Tempest stays in S tier. When it comes to Barbarian, I'm not touching that either because it is still the best class to play for objectives, but I think we should add one more class to the S tier, and that is Demon Hunter. This class is the best damage dealer for both low and high resonance players. Especially in high tier games, Demon Hunters run wild. To be honest, I was expecting a slight nerf to Demon Hunter, but that didn't happen, so I'm moving this class to S tier. Now, when it comes to the A tier, we're going to welcome some new classes to this tier. As I mentioned at the start of the video, depending on the player and account power, you might consider moving the classes I'm about to name to S tier, but overall I think they belong in A tier. Well, the first class I'm going to name is the Necromancer. I'm sure you're all aware of the chaos a decent Necromancer can cause. Unfortunately, the best build is still the old Corpse Lance build or some sort of modified version of it. That is kinda boring to play, but since we're doing a power level tier list, that doesn't matter. The other one is my favorite class, Blood Knight. The Summoner build is going crazy with damage over time gems and set items. To be honest, players in Asian servers have been using this build for a while, but after build videos came out, a lot of people started to use it on other servers as well. Just like Necromancer, Blood Knight can be viewed as S tier in the right hands, but overall A tier is a decent spot for it. Next, let's talk about the B tier. This is the tier for classes that are still effective but noticeably weaker than others. Crusader is probably the best example for this tier. I'm seeing way more Crusaders performing better than before, which is a good sign, and that's why this class is in B tier. There are builds that can be impactful while pushing or defending the idol, which is the most important role for Crusaders, other than protecting party members. If you are low resonance or if you don't have decent secondary stats, this class might not be for you. To play a similar role, you could play Barbarian instead. And after Crusader, we have Wizard in B tier. There's only one reason to have Wizard in this tier, and that's the control builds. New essences didn't really bring playable builds, so if you want to play Wizard, you should go with control setups. A good Wizard can be a game changer, but not so good ones just add more kills to the enemy team's score. Well, this time we don't have a Rest in Peace tier. I'm skipping the C tier because I don't see any classes that fit there, so we're jumping into the D tier. The one and only Monk will be alone in here. As you can see, we've updated it from Dead to being in D tier. New essences have brought some hope to the Monk, so in the future we might see it in higher tiers. Well, this is my current tier list. Once again, this list can change a bit depending on the player and account power, but overall I think this list provides a decent overview of the current state of Diablo Immortal's classes for PvP activities. You can share your own list in the comments section. Thanks for tuning in and take care.